found a tube, and the minute I opened it, the smell transported me through time.
This one's wife. Suits? Balls to them. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. If you put her narcissism to one side, what are the two main things that this one's wife is known for? Well, you might say being an habitual liar, or someone that thinks that fashion really suits her when it doesn't. You might opt for the fact that she plays the race card regularly, but no. The two most prominent aspects that she's known for are, one, that she married Prince Harry, and two, she was in Suits. With regard to one, that's the only reason we know of her. And the only reason that we know that she was in Suits is not because millions upon millions of people watched the programme, but it's simply the case that whenever she was mentioned, reference was made to the fact that she used to be in Suits, as if everybody knew that. Soon it became the case that it was inextricably linked, a little bit like James Corden and the word arsehole. It became linked that this one's wife was associated with Suits. She made it out, of course, that she was the star of the show, even though she was sixth on the call list. I've seen some excerpts of the show, and it seems reasonably decent. Legal dramas are often quite entertaining, although I immediately glaze over whenever she happens to appear in a scene. But as for the rest of the cast, it seems relatively harmless pap, and one can understand why many people enjoy watching it. And it has enjoyed something of a resurgence of late on Netflix. Accordingly, as a consequence of the fact that this one's wife just happened to be in that programme, and that gets mentioned nearly every single time she's written about, Suits has benefited from gaining additional prominence. This one's wife, at the time, utilised her inclusion in a semi-successful show, naturally for the pursuit of the prime aims. It enabled her to control people. Ooh, you're in Suits. So if there was a fan of the show, they would be bowled over by that, meaning that that tertiary source would be easy to control, and they would offer up fuel as a consequence of their response to meeting somebody who was in the show. It would gain her some residual benefits. For example, as a consequence of the connection to the show, it might well have opened some doors with regard to fashion and cosmetics. Thus, being involved in the show, and of course the salary that she drew from it as a residual benefit, catered to the prime aims. Thus, at the time, when she was in the show, she wanted everybody to know about it. When she became involved in Harry, of course, it wasn't appropriate for her to continue with the acting, and she was told by Queen Elizabeth that that was something that needed to end, as she became a member of the royal family. But thereafter, of course, there continued the mentions of the fact that she was in Suits, ostensibly done as if everybody would think, oh yes, I knew that, but actually most people did not. Although those that wrote about her would make that link, it would appear, of course, that this one's wife has done to Suits what she's done to so many other people. When she got married, various cast members were invited, because at that juncture they still served a useful purpose. It would appear that these non-intimate secondary sources, namely the various actors and actresses that are involved in the show, have found themselves shelved by her. Emmy Griffiths, who writes for Hello, tells us this one's wife Suits co-star Gina Torres reveals reason why Duchess is not on show's group chat. Fans of the hit show Suits were delighted when several key members of the cast reunited to present an award together at the 2024 Golden Globes. But the auspicious evening was missing this one's wife, who played Rachel Zane in the drama. Now, as I've mentioned, I've seen certain excerpts of the show. I haven't watched a full episode. And it's my understanding that the attendance was involving the actor who played Harvey Specter, who was one of the main partners at the fictitious law firm, and an associate, the actor who played Mike Ross, who I understand turned out not to have attended Harvard or such like, and I think that caused some problems. And then there's another partner who I think who is played by the actress Gina Torres, and then there's the red-headed lady who plays Donna, who's a bit of a sort of sassy secretary type as well, from what I gather. Thus, those four were pretty integral characters in the show. This one's wife wasn't necessarily so. So they turn up at the Golden Globes, presenting an award together, but it wouldn't necessarily follow that this one's wife would be there. Nevertheless, Hello reports chatting to reporters on the red carpet. This one's wife's former co-star Gina Torres was asked about the Duchess of Sussex and if they had texted her to join them on Sunday night. Interviewer Mark Malkin asked her, "You know, we have to talk about what's happening today." To which she replied, "What's happening today?" Mark said, "Suits reunion. Everywhere I look, there's a star from Suits. Did you plan this? Are you all texting each other?" Gina replied, "Yeah, our text thread is insane right now," thus confirming that various former members of the cast of Suits have very much stayed in touch. When asked about who texted this one's wife to invite her to the Golden Globes, Gina said, "We don't have her number. We just don't. So she'll see, she'll watch, she'll be happy that we're here." While this one's wife didn't step out at this year's Golden Globes, Hello understands the Duchess was invited. Bullshit. If she had been invited, you just know she would not have turned down the opportunity to be milking it on the red carpet at the Golden Globes. She wasn't invited. But what is interesting is the fact that Gina Torres, who was a co-star with this one's wife, explained that none of them have her number. Now, this one's wife has always banged on about her involvement in Suits. Indeed, Hello reports this one's wife has always been very vocal about her pride in the show, which ran from 2011 to 2019, but recently enjoyed more success after landing on Netflix, becoming the streaming platform's most watched series. Chatting to Variety about the news, she said, "Is that right? But who's counting?" She added, "It was great to work on such a great cast and crew. We had a really fun time. I was on it for 7 seasons, so quite a bit. But it's hard to find a show you can binge watch that many episodes of these days, so that could have something to do with it, but good shows are everlasting." Now, it is interesting because there you have Sarah Rafferty, Patrick J. Adams is there, Gina Torres, and Gabrielle Macht. And taking to the stage to present the Outstanding Drama Series category was the four of them. Joking about the show's recent popularity 5 years after the finale, Patrick said, "It's hard to imagine having to wait so long to see your show get that kind of recognition." Thus, it has the more recent popularity, and you can see that 4 of the co-stars, with the show having been over for 5 years, are still in contact with one another, but not with this one's wife. As Gina Torres pointedly remarked, none of us have her number. Thus, it's demonstrative again of the behaviour of this one's wife, that on the one hand, she will dine out on Suits. "Oh, I was a member of Suits. Oh, I was really proud of being in that show. It was great. We have a great cast and crew," whereby she showers praise on it, triangulating the listener with her experiences on that show in order to control them and draw fuel from them. But when it comes to actually keeping in touch with the people that she was a cast member with, no, she hasn't bothered. Why? Because she regards herself as far more important than that. She is the amazing This One's Wife, Empress of Woke and centre of the universe. She doesn't need to be hanging around with some bit part actors. No, goodness me, no. She's far more important than that. And thus, this once again demonstrates the hypocrisy of this woman, who on the one hand will talk about how wonderful the show is and how wonderful everybody was on it, yet doesn't bother to keep in contact with them. But notice how these 4 cast members, and probably others, have remained in touch with one another. Now, of course, just because you're in a show with somebody doesn't mean that you have to be friends with your co-stars, in the same way that if you work with somebody down the local lollipop factory, you don't have to be friends with them. But invariably, because of the amount of time that's spent together, people forge relationships and friendships with one another. But not this one's wife. They were there to be used. Patrick J. Adams, Gina Torres, Gabrielle Macht, etc., are non-intimate secondary sources, and they served their purpose, so that thereafter, once she had attained the fame that she always believed was belonging to her, and that she moved to another stratum, she determined that it wasn't necessary for her to maintain contact with them, and hence, whilst the text thread between all of the other actors was going berserk, there was no involvement with this one's wife, because she did not deem it appropriate for them to be involved. Once again, just through a slight comment that is provided, you are able to understand more about the way that this one's wife behaves, how people are simply there to be used by her, to be taken off the shelf for the purposes of the prime aims, and then to be put back on there. It was only a short comment by Gina Torres, but it told us so much about this one's wife's attitude. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.